Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Tom with Capo Fetish. Today we're going to talk about our top 10 favorite albums from 1984. A wonderful year with a lot of great indie rock coming into play, a lot of great alternative rock, a lot of great debuts. I remember just being ensconced in indie rock during this period, and it's one of the high periods in my opinion for like indie rock. So let's start off with number 10. These are my 10 favorites from 84. Let's start off with number 10, and this is My Ever-Changing Moods by Style Council. 2 years after the Jam split, Paul Weller, main man of the Jam, formed this band. More of a blue-eyed soul thing, less of a power pop, punk type thing. A lot of more jazz influence type, cocktail lounge kind of music, but done really well. Actually very spectacular. The title track is one of my favorite tracks from that era, My Ever-Changing Moods. There was another really great single called You're the Best Thing that starts off side 2. One of my favorite points or favorite moments in this album is a song called The Paris Match, featuring Tracy Thorn from Everything But the Girl. She's such a great vocalist, and it's such a beautiful song. And to me, that's one of the highlights on this great album. But just a great laid back, really just awesome type of record to listen to at night. So this is coming in at number 10, My Ever-Changing Moods by the Style Council. Coming in at number 9 is the official debut from the Bengals, All Over the Place. The single off here was Hero Takes a Fall, great lead-off track of side 1. You also have a track written by Kimberly Rue of Katrina and the Waves going down to Liverpool. They do a cover of Live by the Merry-Go-Round from the 1960s, Emmett Rhodes was the lead singer. Then there's a lot of other great songs. This is a really good rocker called Silent Treatment. Dover Beach Ends Side 2, great song. Another song called James. This is before the Bengals became MTV'd out with all the makeup and everything. This is them at their most natural. The songs are great. Nothing written by Prince here, just all written by the Bengals. And they shine on this album. So this is coming in at number 9, The Bengals, All Over the Place from 1984. Coming in at number 8 is Spinal Tap. Just a black cover, also known as Smell the Glove, as they show in the movie. Incredible movie, one of the best parodies ever made about metal or hard rock. You can't go wrong with Stonehenge, Big Bottom, or Sex Farm. Just all hysterical songs. Hellhole's another highlight. I'm sure most of you out there have seen this movie, but if you haven't, please stream it or buy it. It's a must for any collection, and it really... it's hysterical. So, and a great soundtrack too. These songs are really well written. So, good stuff here. Spinal Tap, the soundtrack, also known as Smell the Glove. Coming in at number 8. Number 7 is the third album from the Pretenders, Learning to Crawl. This is coming off the heels of the deaths of James Honeyman Scott and Pete Farndon. You'd think after losing those two members that it would be hard to kind of reclaim some magic, but they do on this album, miraculously. Back on the Chain Gang was a huge hit, Middle of the Road as well. There's other really great songs on here. Time the Avenger's a great rocker. Watching the Clothes, Show Me, great ballad. 2,000 Miles is beautiful, ends the album. Robbie McIntosh is the replacement for James Honeyman Scott, and although he's not in that league personally, in my opinion, with James Honeyman Scott, he does a fine job here. It's just kind of a more cleaner Pretender sound, a sound that they would carry on with further albums. I kind of lost interest after this album. I was a huge fan of the first 2 albums, but this is kind of it for me, for the Pretenders. After this album, everything became kind of stale and mediocre, in my opinion. So, a great album nevertheless. Learning to Crawl by the Pretenders, coming in at number 7. Coming in at number 6 is one of my favorite singers from the 80s, Elizabeth Fraser of Cocktooth Twins, the album Treasure, an incredible album. To me, this is their first amazing album with more to come, like Bluebell Knoll in the future and Heaven in Las Vegas. There's some really great tunes on here. I'm going to try to read them with some glasses here. There's Laura Lee, track number 2, which is really, really cool. But my absolute favorite track on here is called Aloysius, track 7. Just amazing, amazing track. Great dream pop here. Robin Guthrie, Elizabeth Fraser. I think she's just a wonder kind as far as vocals go. I mean, you don't know what she's singing about, but whatever it is, I want to go there. You know, it's just, she is in a league all of her own. So this is coming in at number 6, Cocteau Twins, Treasure. Coming in at number 5 is the debut from Everything But the Girl. We just spoke about Tracy Thorn in the Style Council video. Here's the American version of this album. And then we have the UK counterpart called Eden, which is really amazing about the UK and the US is they have almost half of the songs are completely different on each album. Half of these aren't even on the debut here. I don't know which one I like better. I mean, I like them both about the same. There's a song off of the first album here, the American version called Could Have Been Worse, which I really, really dig, kind of dark. So the music on these albums, I really like the first 2 Everything But the Girl albums. It's kind of like a cross between, they don't know if they want to be cocktail jazz music or kind of folky Smiths kind of stuff. But somehow it all really works out really well, that combination. And it doesn't matter if they switch between the 2 styles. It just flows. Tracy Thorn's vocals are amazing. Ben Watt's an amazing songwriter. I've always been a fan of their early stuff before they became real popular with the electronic stuff. I think this is almost a 5-star album. I'd say if you got to pick up one, maybe pick up Eden. But I'd say pick up 2 because you're getting double the songs. You're getting half the songs that you didn't get on the other album and vice versa. So coming in at number 5 is Everything But the Girl's debut. This is the American version. This is the UK version called Eden. Coming in at number 4 is a perfect album, of course, Prince's Purple Rain. I remember when this came out, that's all you heard on the radio. I think When Doves Cry is one of the greatest songs ever to hit the top 5. I think it even hit number 1. No bass on the song, just percussion. Great vocals, of course, from Prince. Probably my favorite track on this is Take Me With You, track 2 on side 1. Of course, we all know Let's Go Crazy and the title track and Darling Nikki and the backward masking after Darling Nikki. I like more of the, the Beautiful Ones. I love that song. Great vocal at the end from Prince. Really giving it his all. Just a great pop record. I don't think he ever reached these heights again. I think people will probably disagree with me. They'll say, oh, Sign of the Times is better. But I mean, as far as just accessibility, this is his best album in my opinion. And I love 1999 and Dirty Mind, but the flow of this album is perfect. It's just a perfect album. So this is coming in at number 4, Prince's Purple Rain. Number 3 is a band that I really got heavily into in 1984, and this is the Smiths' debut album. Great album, but I think I actually prefer Hatful of Hollow. Even though it's not a real album, it's just a compilation record. To me, this always played like a real album. There's 8 songs on each side, and maybe because most of the songs are from 1984, it all just flows really well. I think the sequencing on this is really good. And I just think this album has more balls, at least production-wise, than the debut. Songs like What Difference Does It Make, These Things Take Time, Handsome Devil. Even This Charming Man has a little different, more, I don't know, just different raw vibe about it. And to me, this has the definitive version of Back to the Old House. Johnny Marr, it sounds like he's playing in a 12-string acoustic. Just beautiful, beautiful. I like it more than the drums and bass version. Also, Reel Around the Fountain 2 has a little more punch on this album than it does on the debut. And even You've Got Everything Now, same thing with that song. I don't know, the sequencing on this is just perfect. I played this thing to death. Initially, I got a copy of Meet His Murder back in 1984 or 85. And somebody taped me this. And I couldn't believe how different this album sounded than Meet His Murder. I mean, I couldn't believe the real pop melodic sensibilities on this album, starting with William, It Was Really Nothing, and I think Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now. That has some of Morrissey's best lyrics ever. I mean, I was looking for a job, and then I found a job, and Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now. What a great lyric, as well as Why Do I Give Valuable Time to People Who Don't Care If I Live or Die? What an incredible lyric. This to me, this is my favorite Smiths album. just the flow of it, the songs, the production. A lot of songs from the Peel sessions, BBC recordings, and a few singles from '84 on this. And then this album, too, though, has some great songs that weren't on Hatful of Hollow. I love Pretty Girls Make Graves. Even Miserable Lie is awesome. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, I Don't Owe You Anything, and Suffer Little Children, which are not on Hatful of Hollow, are all great songs. But Hatful of Hollow here made me a huge Smiths fan in the mid-'80s, and I still stand by this as their best album, even though it's a compilation. So this is coming in at number 3, Hatful of Hollow, The Smiths. Coming in at number 2 is an equally as important album. In fact, these top 3 are equally as good. Very milestone albums in my life during that period. It's Let It Be by The Replacements. I think that this album has some of Westerberg's greatest songs, along with Tim as well, but Unsatisfied could be my favorite Replacement song. I love Answering Machine, the way it ends the album. Of course, Androgynous is amazing. And 16 Blue is just so great. Just a great record. The way they mixed like all these kind of cornball songs with these serious songs was real different at the time. And then, of course, I Will Dare, starting off the album with that little solo by Peter Buck. It's just a great album. A milestone in indie rock in the 80s, the mid-80s. Number 2, Let It Bleed by The Replacements. And then coming number 1 is probably the most influential album for me during that era. It's the second REM album, Reckoning. Played this to death along with Hatful of Hollow and Let It Bleed. This album, I don't know what it was. I bought Murmur a year prior in '83 and I loved it. But this one I even loved more, and this got me going and starting a band and playing out and starting writing songs because of this album. And REM was a real turning point for me. I thought, if they can do it, I can do it. And I think a lot of other people felt that way too who were musicians. So just a flawless album. Harbor Coat, Seven Chinese Brothers, Southern Central Rain, Time After Time. I love Letter Never Sent. It's kind of like an oddball tune on the album no one really talks about. Don't Go Back to Rockville. Camera is a beautiful ballad. And the album ends with Little America, which was always a great live track. And I saw them on this tour at the Hollywood Palladium in '84. I might have mentioned this in another video, but Stipe had gone in the ocean prior that day. I guess it was bitten by a jellyfish and ended up sitting on a stool the whole time for the show. And I remember just the vibe of the show. The lights were really dim, and they opened it with Harbor Coat, and they did a lot of the songs from Chronic Town and Murmur. It's just a real life-changing album, life-changing show. And I will always love early REM. I think this stuff is timeless. It doesn't really even sound like 80s music. It just has kind of a timeless feel to it. So this is coming in at number 1 for me on my list of 1984 albums. And then I'm going to mention a few more honorable mentions. We've got Leonard Cohen's Various Positions. Of course, famous for the original version of Hallelujah. But I think Dance Me to the End of Love is fantastic. The Law, The Captain. Great album. Kind of, I guess you'd call this maybe a mid-period album by Leonard Cohen, but great stuff. Another group that really no one talks about much is the Red Rockers. They had a single in '83 called China. There's a song on here. It's kind of a rip-off of Tomorrow Never Knows, but it's called Burning Bridges, and it's really good. Good stuff. And then, of course, I got to throw a little Kinks in there, too. This is a latter-day Kinks album, their last for Arista. Got some good songs on here. Do It Again, Living on a Thin Line, Going Solo. I think one of the last Kinks albums that has some stellar material on it. And then Los Lobos, How Will the Wolf Survive? Some great stuff on here. This doesn't sound like an 80s album. It has a timeless feel to it. Love that title track. And Isogoworks, their first album, Whisper to a Scream, was a huge hit back in the day. And I love In the Cauldron of Love and Lover's Day. Great album. So those are my top 10 and some of my honorable mentions. Let me know what your top 10 are. Thanks for watching. Press subscribe. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.